Hi, I'm Raya Riggs again. We're doing a couple little mini videos here. We put up a blog to try to, we're being provided with information, and we come up with additional information. Plus we have other stuff we'd like to help folks with their research on. This was provided to us by one of our viewers, the Anti-Government Movement Guidebook. This book comes from the National Center for State Courts, and it's provided by a grant. And basically, it's about a 200-page book. You'll be able to download it and view it, and if you wanted to print it off this video, or next to it, or under documents, probably under documents. And what it does is it helps the state court system under the United States municipal corporate laws to keep us controlled and how to try to refute us when we try to raise the fact our 14th Amendment wasn't ratified. Now, if you go back to the congressional record, which you can also download off our website, we spoke of in the last video, it'd be under the non-ratification of the 14th Amendment, page 15646, near the conclusion of the congressional record. It states, the Constitution makes it a sworn duty of the judges to uphold the Constitution, which strikes with nullity the 14th Amendment. It goes on to say, the federal courts actually refuse to hear arguments on the invalidity of the 14th Amendment, even when the issue is presented squarely by the pleadings and evidence as above. Only an aroused public statement in favor of preserving the Constitution and our institutions and freedom under the constitutional government and the future security of our country will break the political barrier which now prevents judicial consideration of the unconstitutionality of the 14th Amendment. Now that had to do with what we spoke of last time, the congressional record. And that makes sense now. That makes sense that they would have a book after reading this congressional record that the judges won't hear it. And that would explain that. We've got the blog up on our forum. Feel free to go there and put your comments up. And if you have a comment or have something you'd like to add or some evidence or something, we'll view it and try to be as factual as we can with it. And thank you very much. Bye-bye. I am Raya Riggs again. This is a follow-up video. We mentioned it, but we didn't really touch base too much on the state of emergency that I pointed out in the original video. I said 1931, but I meant 1933. But further research shows they never repealed the state of emergency we was in. It's from 1861. It was done under bankruptcy. It was basically, and they extended its jurisdiction pretty much in 1917 with the Trading with the Enemy Act. We became the enemy in 1933, March 9th, with the Amendatory Act, which included people of the United States and persons. Remember, a corporation is a person within the jurisdiction of the 14th Amendment. We were included as enemies. Most recently, they have to update the state of emergency. They try to cut back on the power of the president, and instead of just keeping us in a constant state of emergency, in 1973 they examined that. So they started limiting the powers of the president to every 2 years. So the president just starts up every 2 years he finds another emergency. We still have never been out of a state of emergency since the days of Abraham Lincoln. Well, most recently, since 9/11, George W. Bush declared his declaration of emergency by reason of certain terrorist acts under the authority of the National Emergencies Act. This declaration has been extended 6 times since 2007. The declaration strengthens the insurance of the National Security Presidential Directive 51, which gave the President the authority to do whatever he deems necessary in a catastrophic emergency, including everything from canceling elections to suspending the Constitution to launching a nuclear attack. Basically, all he's got to do is just fill a certain need. I mean, there's not even an act of Congress anymore. Well, we wouldn't need one anyway if you stop and think about it, because we're in a state of emergency. He can basically override Congress when he wants to. We're in a state of emergency. The whole thing's an illusion as being real. I mean, just like I pointed out in the last video, I mean, the kids are still being taught to this day, and so are future attorneys, that this amendment has been ratified. To this day, they're still being taught this falsehood. All because we've been under a state of emergency. They've never undeclared it since the days of Abraham Lincoln. That's the crossroad where our country changed. That's why there's two 13th Amendments, as some people research will show. One with the title of nobility, and one about involuntary slavery, which should be the 14th Amendment. I mean, it's nuts what they've done to a truly free people. They've got us so confused. What we think is real isn't real. I mean, it's insane. Please take the time to view these documents we've put up here and do research, further research. I mean, you'll see how they've bound us to an emergency jurisdiction with the 14th Amendment. This emergency needs to be undeclared. That we need to get out of a state of emergency, which means the Federal Reserve won't be able to print no more of their money. We'll have to go back to a constitutional and a stable currency. I mean, folks, we got to do something about this. 140, almost 150 years of a state of emergency, since 1861. That's insane. They didn't even invent automobiles until 1865, and that was the water one, the steam one. I mean, we've been in a state of emergency for a very long time. I mean, it's time that we go back to a constitutional republic. We got to get rid of this. It's a falsehood. Well, please take the time to view these documents and put your comments up and post them, please. Thank you very much.